Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this very meaningful radio forum on smoke-free tribal casinos. We will start off with a prayer, an opening prayer by Mr. Al-Yazi.
Che yati dat kia anin slodosk azo basis chain kachin da che do na khine da shnale basin le ekest a kodoshe so da sendole kade hujon do le na sta shma yadel kechit kha din yod din jo bai khoye ni kha di lol nat awli do saden le ni hu ado thi do nan thien be ni kha di lol khala khon hidden na bilneil nish di ye bahund in ye nat oholia a khadeshin nat oht zelnat oholia ebil olta ni hidden enlin anle khajine de khanna bi nazla chunil akon de khadoshin hol so ikon betsin stleji at ado betsin lekreda nei di lao aj laut achiyol islen jo ajo da ga chon intishinde so de zene do na ga ba hatano ako penina doyat eko ats is yinal nashot dishjini belkholji ibn de ben on nashin jano adonil adot agun jano bi khatol doyat ejnani nil ido kut hejo ba initsin le dahus als khoji ko eko hojon don so dishne hojon hastling.
Thank you, Mr. Yazi. Thank you for that beautiful opening prayer. Shar Day, and I'm with Americans for Non-Smokers' Rights and the ANRF Foundation, and I'll be your facilitator today. First, for our overall welcome, we have Mr. Hershel Clark, who is going to start us off this morning. Mr. Clark is from the Southern Navajo Tobacco Education and Prevention Program. Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Shar. Let me go ahead and introduce myself. She tohe glini nishle, the Bethlehem Budge Chain, Ushihinsha Cheado Tisnazat Nationale. Good evening, everybody. My name is Hershel Walker Clark, and I'm calling out of Winslow, Arizona. I'm calling from our program, the Southwest Navajo Tobacco Education Prevention Project. And just a little bit about our project, we do a lot of tobacco control and prevention out in the Navajo Nation in regards to really just trying to educate the community, our traditional healers, our elected leaders, and also the youth in regards to the dangers of commercial tobacco and secondhand smoke within the Navajo Nation. So I'd like to welcome all of our audience who are listening in this evening, from our Navajo people to Indian country audience, and also including our non-native brothers and sisters who are tuning in to this very important topic regarding the health and well-being of our people. I believe we have a very special radio forum to share with our audience in regards to a smoke-free legislation that has been proposed and discussed among our leaders and people. The proposed legislation is called the Navajo Nation Niłch Bee Ííńá Air Life Act of 2021. This legislation is to prohibit the smoking of commercial tobacco products within workplaces and public places in the Navajo Nation. I'd like to thank Mr. Al-Yazi for his opening prayer. Just to give a respect to our culture and use of ceremonial tobacco is very important when we discuss topics surrounding the use of tobacco with our people. We always believe the culture and purposes and perspectives and how Navajo people and American Indian tribes view tobacco is very important to respect and acknowledge. So ahead, Mr. Yazi, for your prayer. I also would like to welcome our special guest speakers who I truly believe are making a tremendous impact in promoting a healthy environment for our people, especially when we talk about reopening our tribal casinos throughout Indian country, including the Navajo Nation. As some of y'all may know, our leaders are currently in discussion of the Navajo Ariz Life Act of 2021. As our leaders discuss this important public health policy for the nation, it is important to share with the people of how this smoke-free policy will benefit our Navajo Nation. This act will also include the ban of smoking within all of our Navajo casinos in the Navajo Nation, so it's important we share information with the Navajo people as your input and views are important. Right now, the Navajo casinos are temporarily non-smoking, and what this policy will do is make it permanently smoke-free within the casinos. We do appreciate the Naval Gaming leadership for reopening 100% smoke-free, but we also would be greatly appreciated if we can make it permanent and begin the transition toward a healthier Navajo Nation, especially with what we all have experienced with COVID-19. Our health and safety should be a strong priority as we move forward together. And I think the discussion by our special speakers today will shed light on this topic, especially when it comes to the public health concerns related to secondhand smoke exposure within the Naval casinos. And it's very unfortunate due to the COVID-19, the situation that we're all in is very challenging as we try to cope with the virus on a daily basis. However, this pandemic has put public health safety as a number one priority. Therefore, tribal communities are provided the opportunity to move forward with a healthy and safe environment for our people as we move forward with COVID-19. I believe the special guests will provide information that will not only help our Navajo people, but will also help our elected leaders to better understand the importance in living and working in a healthy environment as we move forward together. I also would like to give a special welcome to one of our known Navajo casino workers who will be sharing their stories, as they are the ones who are working in an environment where smoking is still allowed. What many people may not know is that the last workplace industry where smoking is allowed is actually within tribal casinos and other casinos throughout the country. So you could imagine the workers' experiences as they work 30 to 40 hours a week and being exposed to the deadly chemicals on a daily basis. And their experience and their voice is very powerful and meaningful when we talk about healthy workplaces, especially when it comes to our tribal employees within the Navajo Nation. So I would like to thank the casino worker for acknowledging and appreciating the stories that they will be sharing this evening. So with that said, I appreciate and welcome each and every one of you who tuned in this evening to listen to our special KTNN radio forum, Navajo Nation Ariz Life Act of 2021, a healthier Navajo Nation. Yeah, thank you.
A lot of movement across the entire nation, and tribes are leading the way. And speaking of tribal leadership, we've got a wonderful person speaking next. Her name is Missy Tracy, and she's with the Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison, and she is a leader in her arena there at Ho-Chunk Gaming. And we really appreciate her taking the time to come speak with us and to tell the story of why Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison went smoke-free 5 years ago and what's happened since. So thank you, Missy.
Thank you, Shar, and hello to everybody. Thank you for inviting me here today to tell you our story, which we feel is just a huge success story on the decision that we made, as Shar said, 5 years ago, to become a completely smoke-free casino. So just a little bit of I'll start with when our municipality went smoke-free, which began in July of 2010. So at that time, as I said, our local municipality mandated the area businesses, the government buildings, everyone to go go completely smoke-free indoors. So at that time, we were still a smoking facility. But then let's fast forward to the fall of 2014, where we take comment cards. We offer comment cards on our gaming floor, and we look at those very closely every day. What we were noticing was a trend in our guests talking about the smoke on our gaming floor. And our executive manager decided to really take a look at those, and he started noticing many coming in that way. So he spoke to our to his management team and proposed this idea about, what do you think about entertaining the possibility, or at least looking at and surveying our clientele on the possibility of becoming a smoke-free casino. Of course, our whole executive management team was in support of this initiative, and so we encouraged him to do so. Our marketing department quickly developed a marketing survey for all of our clientele to determine what our guests thought, what did they want to see happen at Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison. So the results came back in the early 2015. We put it out there and had guests have time to complete. We took a nice time frame sampling, and we were surprised to find out that 70% of our guests encouraged and wanted a completely smoke-free environment in which to game in. That was a big surprise to us because generally, or I should say historically, casinos, gambling and smoking go hand in hand. So we were quite surprised, but we were encouraged. So our executive manager then worked with our tribal government and pitched this idea to him. And the tribal government said, you know your market, you know your customers, you know your clientele. So we're going to put this on, we're going to leave this decision up to you. And while that was encouraging, you can imagine the responsibility and the weight of such a decision were it not to be successful. But our executive manager, being the strong leader that he is, stuck to what we were trying to do. And he also worked with our local public health officials, as well as our health officials within the Ho-Chunk Nation out of our Department of Health. So it was a collective effort of a lot of people at the table. This decision wasn't entered into lightly, but we knew one thing, that we really wanted this. We really wanted to make this a reality, and we wanted it to be successful. So fast forward to June of 2015, and we put signage on our gaming floor to notify our customers mid-June of our intention to go completely smoke-free in August of 2015. We figured that would give them enough lead time to start accepting this idea. And we also developed we decided how were we going to implement this. So on the evening of July 31st at midnight, we had our managers and our executive manager on the gaming floor when we went completely smoke-free, and all smoking products were extinguished, all ashtrays were removed off the floor, and our managers passed out candy and other promotional items to really make this ease into this new environment that we were offering them, of course, for their benefit. So everyone accepted it. You may have a few stragglers, but a few guests who resisted. But when your clientele really enjoys the form of entertainment you offer and a really nice environment, they're gonna go along with it. They accept change. Who knew that even 5 years later that we would be dealing with a pandemic, a respiratory virus? And so what we were really, really thankful that we went ahead and offered a completely smoke-free environment for our guests. Another surprising thing happened with this changeover. While I will say that for the first 90 days, our revenue dipped a little, by the end of the 15th month, we exceeded all of our expectations, and our revenue pulled ahead of where it had been for the previous year. So, that is a success story, and we have never, ever looked back. What else can I tell you about this? Oh, just an update. A year ago, we banned electronic cigarettes and vaping on our casino floor. So we are a completely smoke-free environment, smoking tobacco products as well as vaping. What we do offer for our smoking clientele, though, because we like to accommodate all of our guests, we offer a totally separate smoking facility, which is not attached to the building, so the smoke can't permeate into the building. And it is a climate-controlled environment. It's a standalone facility, and it didn't cost that much to implement. So we do offer a place for our smokers to go and, enjoy their cigarette or what have you. But they can't, the smoke can't get into our building. And now we have our guests, our older guests, who can stay on the gaming floor longer and enjoy their entertainment because you can breathe. I will also say that we, right after we went completely smoke-free, we did an intensive deep cleaning of our facility, of our carpet, to get that smoke out. You will be amazed at how quickly the smoke leaves the air. So we did that. The cost savings was incredible because our employees, we had less employees call in due to illness, thus not having to rearrange your schedule, change your shift and all of that, as well as a cost savings to the health insurance costs. So that's our air filters on our HVAC system, our environmental services staff not having to empty cigarette ashtrays. The cost savings are just incredible. And I'm sure, I mentioned the pandemic earlier, for everyone who's had their facility sanitized and disinfected, this going smoke-free is a wonderful way to protect that investment, because we all know that it is not a process to go through. Hands down, if you want the claim to say we offer a healthy, safe environment, you have to be smoke-free. I mean, when you're smoking, when we think about this, everywhere is going to be, hopefully, folks are going to wear masks so we can get rid of this virus. Why, though? Why are they required to wear masks? Because when we talk, when we sneeze, when we yell, shout, whatever, our droplets go into the air. So you can imagine inhaling a cigarette and blowing that out. You're sending so much germs and droplets into the air for the potential for someone to contract the virus. And I think also, just in speaking to, as a casino, we're the ones who are trying to attract the younger generation, the millennial generation, to come into our casinos. And one of the things that we realize is that millennials are attracted to their experience, and they love experiential fun in casinos as well. So it's all about the experience, and that means a smoke-free environment. That's what they want. They'll stay longer. They have more disposable income because they're not purchasing tobacco products. And, you'll see your revenue go up. Also, you mentioned earlier, yes, all of our casinos under the Ho-Chunk Gaming Wisconsin brand have gone smoke-free upon reopening. So that's definitely a bonus. And if I could just offer this one thing about this one thought, we went completely of our own volition. We were not mandated to do so by anyone. So we exercised our sovereignty. And in thinking about why our gaming enterprises exist, our gaming enterprises fund our tribal governments. The programs that our tribal government offers, such as education, housing, and health, being one of those programs. It is truly a wonderful way to exercise your sovereignty. So I just wanted to offer those points, just to, when really thinking about this, it is the right decision to make, and I don't believe that anyone will regret it. And again, thank you so much for having me and allowing me to advocate for this.
Mr. Al-Yazi will now translate.
Yat ena no shike nas nan do lek adeya na kigo nan hilna hodil nagi chike stanen lon le a ade nanan le ha ahtor shada api yadeo le da Madison, Wisconsin holia ade betsish tlijit o UK dat la o I see tla beta han senjidi Ho-Chunk dawlia Ho-Chunk Indians ade ebel khaz andat ta na agence be casino hollo ajid nal nishigi sakodon dotze Missy Tracy will ye adobel gana kachepam na nestepe hatilzen pepe hatilzen niki ya Municipal Relations Coordinator for Navajo Gaming kut aita pepe hatilzen akoko kodon hilna halna dolel ako ajnilat ahosh le ashlana khayeta jno khahajolna 5 years ago jno AD casino sanaliki the question sanal ashla da shayno halna ako asago tsa bets at ago in Red Madison Wisconsin kin la da shaja ashi kin kwabel khaz aniki kit khagi da yo as ahot khago holiel and le Albuquerque da abe honlso ako ashi da kin khagi Pepe has ani benant ani dan lenishi not pe has ani lechates din redam anai benat ohliyegi na liawa ngaden danigi the net khake ado chon indolel can be yegun acho indolel khaslage ado chon indolel no eye no na ajun ako khwe ya iti ta na ajosh Tapajayel yedige epi yegun da at oko khaz agoko ado la khit ado le la no shi ban da chit khahol jij de yati da sana liaba gan sa ko saho ko dat ele bilya ha gato kon khaz da gato chejta ta nal sosal isle da comment box will ya sha ilan zan khalid an khansen kes bakha da Enal Yahabag Balhaz Ani 8 Enal Sos Bakajil Adot Behinjelt Ayaj da Saan. De Eshi Hut Edatot Alto Condidit Na Ajon Yahya Kahagi Din Hit Nado Alhad Il Didat Aquit Edo Aquit Jakon Hil Yahya Kahi Ila Tanzanla that Tajanoshi did not Ani da Jelini Hiji Kago. Eshi naidi kiri bakha da jila khalade no sun di da adonat oho lel khalade no sun bakha oshin eshi ado yahanan te ho epaho at kushi spiska nde zato ba at elgin adashin da etajnel etajil khat o khayu yahanani te oshin nde zadat o khayu Leda the quidness at thing she could yanit de Akotajil Kanden le 75% will yen rate peso asa pesos so gibik the rate tsadot lezoma tletso 75 Akonel la on de ako adonat ogodol nilta no hatahas zijin Akola show Khalid ada di lila the nella cotains and la.
So I just want to thank everybody, the panelists, and Mr. Yazzie for a meaningful and interesting discussion. And just wanted to say too that our thoughts are with the Navajo Nation as they consider their next steps for moving forward. And we can't wait to visit some of the Navajo Nation casinos soon too. So thank you, everyone. And then I would love to hear a little bit from Hershel about some of the workers too, and some of their stories of what it's like to just work day in and day out in a smoke-filled environment.
First question is, what is your experience in working in a Navajo casino where secondhand smoke is exposed to you?
Okay, thank you for having me. The experience I had working with secondhand smoke at the casino was getting headaches, coughing, watery eyes, and then smoke on my clothes. I feel don't like that.
Okay, do you feel the Navajo casino's decision to allow smoking puts your health at risk?
Yes, I believe it is a risk to my health.
Could you explain a little more?
Well, I do have a pre-existing health condition. I am diabetic, and I have to take medication for that, and a thyroid issue that I have to take medication for that as well. When you're a diabetic, it affects your heart rate, your blood, your sugar level, and I am a high risk with the secondhand smoke.
Okay, could you kind of share your experiences in regards to being exposed to? You mentioned something about secondhand smoke or third-hand smoke when you meant that it gets on your clothes and in your body. Can you share some stories on how that feels when you get off work, when you go back home to your family?
Well, my family, they're smoke-free, and I know it's not good to have smelling like cigarette and you take it home to your family and you expose that secondhand smoke to them as well.
Okay. All right. So just going on to the next question. Can you share the process when applying for a job for the Naval Casino regarding the liability of being exposed to secondhand smoke? I understand you have to waive your rights if you're exposed or harmed by secondhand smoke. Could you explain or kind of share that experience or your perspective on that?
Yes, there is a waiver that we have to sign off on around secondhand smoke. And I applied at other jobs, but I've never seen an application where we have to waive our rights to secondhand smoke. I was kind of surprised to see that. To me, I felt that they didn't care about the employees there.
Why do you think the gaming leaders kind of silence your voice in regards to the secondhand smoke? If it is a danger and you are waiving your rights, why do you think the leaders kind of? What is your perspective on that?
I believe that it's all about money, and they're trying to make more money, and they think entertainment is smoking. And I know some of them probably do smoke too.
Okay. All right. So going on to the next question. What are your thoughts on how a smoke-free policy that covers all of Naval casinos will impact your health?
I think if it was smoke-free policy, I think it would be, great. It would be awesome, because I know a lot of people that like to go to the casino when it's smoke-free. There's a lot of good food there and entertainment and just having fun.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you think it'll motivate you to work a lot? It'll motivate you to work better, better attitude and behavior at work?
Absolutely. I think it would be great, because you don't have to worry about your house so much, and just enjoy your job and just doing what you have to do there.
Okay. All right. Going on to the next question. What are some positive outcomes about casinos reopening 100% smoke-free? If you're probably not aware that we are reopening after COVID-19, and it's going to be temporarily smoke-free. So what are your thoughts about that?
Awesome. It would be great. It would be great to have a environment 100% smoke-free. I mean, there's a lot you can do, and then just enjoy the entertainment.
Could you elaborate a little more regarding the entertainment? So when you work there, do you see people, are they there to smoke, or are they there for the entertainment? And, so can you elaborate a little more on that?
I do see a lot of people there, and like dancing, like they have these Navajo bands, they come out and they enjoy themselves. I know a lot of people like to dance, especially the country dance. And then there's even events that they put up, and people like to go. And then I do see a lot of people eating, and they enjoy the food. They like to come. And then again, there's some that say, oh, I wish we could stay there, but it's not smoke-free. And so a lot of times they eat and then they just leave. I mean, if it was smoke-free, they'll look around and enjoy themselves. And then there's some people that don't even gamble, but they like to eat there and dance and whatever the event is, like the holidays.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you think a smoke-free casino policy should be a permanent moving forward?
I think it should be permanent because of the COVID-19. We don't know how long this COVID-19 is going to be. And we need to be thinking about the people, the elders and the young ones, and then just have, everybody just be healthy.
Mm-hmm. It seems like health is a big issue right now. So, but so last question: what would you like to share with the Naval leadership in regards to their decision to whether they should, pass a permanent smoke-free policy within our casinos? What would you like to share with leadership if you had an opportunity to talk with them about this issue?
I would really tell them for making it a permanent smoke-free policy. And, it's all about entertainment, and I'm sure they like to bring their families too, and just having fun. And I really would be happy and just be thankful for what they're trying to do to make more money. I'm sure they will.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there any other comments or anything in regards to that you would like to share for the general audience and to the people in regards to this topic? Just your experience in working in the industry of the gaming. Is there anything else you would like to share?
Sure. The gaming is it is good. I mean, it's in our legend, our stories that there's gambling that was involved, and I'm sure a lot of people they look at it that way. We educate our people that way too, and then there's good things. I think there's a lot of good things. There's jobs. There's a lot of good benefits within the job, and they even sent people that if they want to go back to school, they help them out. I mean, the benefits are great, I believe, and it's good. It's a good job, but it's hard work too, and we just need to make it positive. It's here now, and we can't do anything, to let it go. And we got 4 casinos, and it's a huge economic development that we Navajos did. It's all good. I believe that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you. I mean, just to add on to you talked about the story of the gambler, and I've always heard that too with other people, and it's really just about taming that gambler, the monster, meaning putting some restrictions on him or her, I guess, the monster, and you kind of explained that from just your translation, the way I'm understanding what you're saying is we need to work with it. Even though we ventured into gaming, it seems like we just need to make it more positive, meaning maybe restrictions in certain areas. In this area is secondhand smoke is really being exposing and really harming our people in a way. So yes. That makes sense. I always hear that, so it's good for you to share that information. Mm-hmm. I guess one more other question before we end this. Do you have any stories in regards to other workers who have been working there but weren't able to continue to work there because of their health? Was there any workers that you are familiar with that were impacted by the secondhand smoke and were not able to work there in the long-term wise?
Yes, there is a few that I know that they just resigned because of the secondhand smoke. And then a lot of them, when they apply, they want to apply, but they want to go to the back. They don't want to go where the casino floor is, because that's where the secondhand smoke, and some of them just last for a few weeks, and it was because of the secondhand smoke, and they had pre-existing health conditions that they had, and they did leave, and that is a big issue. If it goes smoke-free, it would be awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you. I mean, I think that you touched up on some really interesting insight on how you look at the Navajo Nation's gaming from an employer perspective. So I'd just like to thank you for this interview, and we really appreciate your generosity and I think it's really just your voice as an employer really speaking to this issue is really going to share not only with our general audience, but with our elected leaders on the decisions that they're going to be making moving forward. So I'd like to just thank you and appreciate. Yeah, thank you.
Hey everybody, welcome to Your Aunties Favorite Podcast. My name is Adrian.
This is Delmar.
Y.A.F, Hershel Clark.
Yeah, and tonight we're going to be talking about the Ariz Life Act of 2021. Hirsch, let us know what that's about.
So basically, it's a smoke-free policy on the Navajo Nation that's currently being debated among our tribal leaders. We'll be having that discussion here with one of our special guests, Clinton Isham from the American Non-Smokers' Rights. So that will be our episode this evening. I hope you guys learn a little more about this legislation and just give you some views on. But Delmar, how can our listeners learn a little more about Your Aunties Favorite Podcast?
You can find our other episodes on Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, and also don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Y.A.F Pod.
Hope you enjoyed the episode.
The views and opinions shared on Your Aunties Favorite Podcast is our own views on this evening's topic and is not affiliated with any other organizations or entities.
The rocks are ready, guys.
The rocks are ready.
Come on, boys.
Oh, okay, wait.
Take
I'm
your
actually
clothes off.
down. Welcome, Clinton. Glad you could join us, man. I appreciate you coming on, and I know you're going to have some good views and our good perspective on this topic that we're going to share. But
Yeah, we got Clinton here, so you can hang.
hey, Clinton, give a little background, like where you're from, what tribe you are, and where you calling out, and like how'd you get to know our pod? And I obviously I know you, but
Okay, my name's Clinton Isham. I'm from the Lac du Flambeau Ojibwe Reservation, which is in northern Wisconsin. I went to school at the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, and I studied policy. And I started working with the Great Lakes Intertribal Council, which is in Wisconsin, and it's a nonprofit entity that represents all 11 tribes in Wisconsin, from everything from like public health to education and everything in between. And so I directed a program out of there called the Wisconsin Native American Tobacco Network. And I worked there for about 5 years and just really helping tribes develop smoke-free policies, or helping tribes with tobacco cessation work, or helping with traditional tobacco work, like mainly like education around it, and like helping going to schools and planting little tobacco seeds with kids and just showing them the difference between our tobacco and commercial tobacco. So I did that for about 5 years, and then I started looking for work again, and I ended up contracting with the Americans for Non-Smokers' Rights Foundation. And I've been working with them for like maybe going on 2-3 years now. And through A&R Foundation, I met Hershel Clark, and we do work around smoke-free tribal casinos. We've done like webinars and media development, and all kinds of things around the Ariz Life Act, and other stuff regarding tobacco control in Indian country.
Yeah, Hirsch, give your background on how you got involved in the in the movement.
In the movement, I like that. I've been in, I guess we can go right into the topic, but I'll get a little background. I've been in tobacco control for almost 8 years, since 2013, since I graduated from ASU. I became a health research assistant for a project that we were working on in the Navajo Nation called the Networks Among Tribal Organizations for Clean Air Policy. So we wanted to really just focus on how the Navajo Nation looks at a smoke-free policy, like what's their attitudes or beliefs and surrounding a policy developed from local leadership to traditional healers, grassroots, the people. So that's how I got into public health. And then from there, I just never thought I'd be in public health, to be honest. Like, Adrian, I graduated in American Indian Studies from ASU, and that's where I didn't really have no experience in public health. So that was my introduction. But I went on to get my after we did 3 years working on that as a research assistant, I went on to pursue my master's in public health at University of Arizona. Graduated back in 2018. Continued the I guess the effort, the movement. Hey, there you go, the movement of regards to really just trying to educate the community, the Navajo Nation, our leadership, our communities on the dangers surrounding commercial tobacco and secondhand smoke. Since there was no smoke-free policy on the Navajo Nation, so that's the reason why I continue that, and we'll get into that topic. I think that's what we're going to be talking about. It's like the smoke-free policy that's actually currently in discussion among our leadership. It's called the Navajo Nation Niłch, Navajo Nation Air is Life Act of 2021.
So did you guys feel like, I mean, like you said, Hersh, you were in American Indian Studies, and Clinton, like you were in policy stuff. Did you guys ever think you were going to end up in, doing what you're doing now and like be interested in it and kind of be passionate about it, I guess?
I think, well, it's kind of a crazy story because the job where I worked at in Wisconsin with Great Lakes Intertribal Council, my mom used to actually run that program. And when I was a kid, I used to go with my mom to the different meetings that she had, like in different reservations throughout Wisconsin. And I used to like collate papers for her and like staple stacks of papers and like get, things ready in the meeting room for her. And so it's like I was always around, I guess, commercial tobacco work. And but no, I had no like desire to kind of do what I'm doing now. I actually wanted to go to law school, and there was also a component of it was like I wanted to help our people, and I wanted to help our people, and in a way, I'm doing that type of work through policy anyways. So it kind of worked out the way it was supposed to work out.
Yeah. Nishant, Hersh.
To be honest, I was really passionate about education. I wanted to pursue I wanted to be a teacher, but eventually I didn't. I changed my major so many times, but I wanted to become a history teacher, become psychology department. I went into the psychology department at ASU, then I transferred over to American Indian Studies. And that's where I got passionate. I grew my hair out, and I found out who I was reading these books.
You learned about who you was?
I relearned, and all that trauma came back my junior year. But no, I think to be honest, it's like American Indian Studies is a very diverse degree. You could talk to anybody about that. You could go in different areas professionally. But I think I never thought I'd be in public health. I just, I needed a job. I was trying to get a job on the Navajo Nation, trying to get a job at home, didn't want to go back to the city. So that's how I landed this position here in Winslow. It's called the Southwest Navajo Tobacco Education Prevention Project. Started off there, and that's how I got into it. And it's really interesting to know how American Indian Studies actually plays a part into like how we look at health policy, or how we look at health disparities for American Indian. I think it's really interesting to merge that concept, and it really speaks to like policies. Like American Indian Studies, there's policy development, federal Indian policies, and that really impacts how our people are like how we face some of the disparities that we do face. Like we talk about, like for instance, we're going to talk about smoke-free policies in Indian country. How many tribes are there? 576 federally recognized tribes, but how many of those tribes actually have some kind of smoke-free policy within their own governments? And that's a question too. It's like roughly, 40 to 50 tribes have smoke-free policies that they passed and implemented. And then how does that contribute to our health disparities? Well, American Indians and Alaska Natives have the highest use of commercial tobacco and cigarettes than any other ethnic groups, like compared to whites, blacks, Hispanics, Mexican, Asian. And then it's like you continue to ask those questions, like, why do we have these disparities? Why do we have, the number one cause of death is heart disease among American Indians? How does that associate to cigarette use? And then the second one is cancer. So lung cancer is the most prevalent cancer among our people. And number 4 is diabetes. And so like a person who had never smoked before, let's say they start smoking, like tomorrow, let's say, Adrian, you never smoked before, let's say tomorrow you start smoking, your chances of becoming diabetic just increase between 20 and 30%. So that's why I mean, like, commercial tobacco has a really a serious impact on how we look at our health, but yet we don't have any policies to protect our people. In basic, simple policies, like in workplaces or public places, very similar to off reservations.
Yeah. So give me a little bit about the background of your company or the organization. Would you say Southwest something? Like you talk about your boss and you say she's cool, like
she's legit.
How did your organization get started?
His boss is really cool.
Yeah. Shout out to Dr. Patricia Nez Henderson. So our office been in existence on the Navajo Nation we're going on 16 years. I believe 2005 was the first time we've developed a program here in Winslow to service the Navajo Nation. And what's really unique about that is the Centers for Disease Control was actually the first one to reach out to the Navajo Nation. And this is the first time they actually addressed tobacco control on Navajo Nation. So it was really interesting. And that's how our program started. So just a little bit about background. They started with that because there was no data, no understanding of how, our people are impacted by commercial tobacco and what's the data looking like, or what's the information. There's no prevention, there's no education. Like even our Navajo Nation Department of Health, or even our Division of Health during that time, didn't have a program that addresses commercial tobacco prevention education. So that's how the program started back in 2005. And eventually the coalition that they developed was called the Team Navajo Health Coalition. And I guess I'll just go right into the history portion. Is they're the first coalition to develop a grassroots organization that developed and tried to pass a smoke-free policy back in 2009, 2008, 2009, and then 2011. But those were the prior attempts, and they're failed attempts. But it really highlighted what the concerns and issues that our leaders look at. And it was actually vetoed by our president, what's his name? Yeah, President Shirley in 2011, based on 3 concepts. The first one was the fact that it's going to infringe on our bona fide use of ceremonies, like commercial tobacco being used in our ceremonies from a traditional point of view. Like they didn't know, there was no real education or really understanding like the difference between commercial tobacco and traditional tobacco. So that was a real strong issue back in the day. So that was one reason. The second reason was because Twin Arrows, gaming became part of the Navajo Nation at that time. So gaming was in fear and using tactics saying that if we went smoke free, that these casinos are going to be failed on the Navajo Nation. So really just protecting their gaming and in their financial interests. That financial interest, I don't know. Is there tobacco industry involved with that? I don't know. We'll get into that question. And then the third one was there's no enforcement mandate to help enforce this policy. So those were the 3 attempts that happened, and those were the 3 reasons why the Navajo Nation did not pass the policy. So it went back to square one in 2011. And
Clinton, tell me a little bit about your organization, the Americans for Non-Smokers' Rights, and then how do you guys work with Hershel's organization?
Yeah, so in our foundation works with a number of different tribal entities and organizations and non-tribal organizations, but I think ANR got started by advocating for the first airline to actually go smoke free. So this is when people used to smoke in airplanes. Yeah. And they were a advocacy group that kind of rallied people in California to back a policy that prevented people from smoking on airplanes. And it started with one airline, I think in the mid-70s, 1970s, and then it kind of spread from there. Then it went to individual like cities and towns, And then, as you've seen, like in 2010, a lot of states then implemented smoke-free policies. But what ANR Foundation does is that they try to help, I guess, organize with grassroots leaders that are already doing the work, right? Like people like Hershel and Dr. Henderson are already doing this work in the community, trying to advocate for policy and trying to implement some sort of change. And so what in our foundation and myself as a consultant does is like, we kind of come in and we're like, okay, how can we help you kind of connect some of the dots, or how can we help you get to where your goals are, right? Like where your policy goals. I work with a lot of different coalitions. I organize webinars, you name it, man. I do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that was interesting what you said, Hirsch, that you said that Native Americans have the highest usage of commercial tobacco products, which is I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I don't see it too much.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Like in the Southwest, like we don't see it much here. But when you go into like other communities, like the Midwest, where Clinton's from, you'll see a lot of people smoking there. There are tribes on the reservations, and you go to Oklahoma, and in the urban communities, you'll see a high prevalence use of Native Americans. So it's there overall, but here in the Southwest, we're a little lower compared to like regions in the Midwest. I think and then you even talk about the youth, like youth have the highest prevalence use too in the Indian country. And I think that's the reason why policies are really important, is because we're trying, as public health advocates and public health professionals, we try to gear our prevention and advocacy and benefits of the youth, because they're the next future. But our message is really trying to get down to the younger ones to prevent them to even picking up, these substance abuses that they do. So that's kind of like public health promotions. So, we could talk about statistics among American Indian youth. It's really high. Like it's like I'll say like 41% of Navajo youth in middle school, high school have used commercial tobacco or cigarettes in their lifetime, compared to the national average. I think it's like 20, I think it's 26% or even 20%. So it's like 2 times our rate. And if so you look at the differences of data and comparing it to the national average, like our youth are at a high prevalence, to be honest.
There was a paper that came out a couple of years ago called Burden of Tobacco in American Indian Country. In that article, they took all their data from IHS clinics, and they found that like not only were American Indian, both men and women have the highest, they have really extremely high smoking rates, but there's like a correlation with those smoking rates. There's very high cancer rates in American Indian communities too. And not only high cancer rates, but when you compare the cancer mortality rates compared to other groups, Native Americans die from cancer at much, much higher rates than any other ethnic group. And, obviously, cancer could be from a number of things, but if we look at the smoking rate in Indian country, something that we can't deny is that, smoking has something to do with this. And in that article too, something that was really really alarming was that natives, specifically natives, they're getting cancer at younger ages. So this is not men and women that are 60, 70 years old dying of cancer. This is natives that are like in their 30s and their 40s getting cancer and dying from it.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. But it's a interesting, I mean, like I said, it goes like my interest, to be honest, the real reason why I became passionate in tobacco control for tribal communities is because the use of ceremonial tobacco versus commercial tobacco, and really just trying to revitalize our teachings and our attitudes and understanding of like how ceremonial tobacco is used for healing compared to like commercial tobacco, which is habit forming, has all these different chemicals, and it's really bad for us. But you look at some of these ceremonies that we have, especially like in just not in Navajo Nation, but like in Indian country, powwows, cultural purposes, that you could see that a lot of people exchange commercial tobacco products for gift offerings or as a way of relating with each other, and it's like that's horrible to see that, and that's the reason why like it kind of pushed me to understand this from a culture point of view. It's like I look at federal Indian policies that impacted our people to really look at like you talk about like the I guess the tribes, why they're in Oklahoma, and they lost that connection to traditional plants, to herbs. When the Indian Removal Act happened in 1830, a lot of those tribes lost connection to their traditional plants back at their homelands. And that speaks volume to why they probably have a higher prevalence of use of commercial tobacco, because maybe they picked that up during their cultural or ceremonial practices that they were trying to practice. And they just adopted commercial tobacco, and it became so normalized. But like for other tribes, like here in the Southwest, we were, a lot of us weren't relocated. So we still have those ties to our land. We still have those ties to those stories, or to everything that it is that means the meaning behind ceremonial tobacco for our culture. So it's really diverse. Some tribes don't even have connection to ceremonial tobacco, so it's really interesting. But that's the reason why I kind of am really interested and passionate about this topic. I guess this my work that I do, and I think it would be really interesting to bring this to the pod, because right now the Navajo Nation is actually having discussion on this legislation, the Navajo Nation Ariz Life Act. I don't know if you want to go into that. Or
Yeah,
any other questions?
let's get into that. So right now, like you said, the Navajo Nation is considering a new act, Ariz Life Act, and apparently this is what is it going to do, Hersh?
Well, basically, it's an ongoing issue. It's the same, very similar legislation that was proposed back in 2009, 2011, and then back in 2016. I forgot to mention that there was a People's Initiative, but that was a failed attempt, because to do a People's Initiative on a Navajo Nation, you have to get literally I think 10% of the voting base. And I think that came out to like almost 15,000 signatures you have to get. So that was a failed attempt. I think we only got like 8,000 to 7,000. And I'll let Clinton talk about this too. It's like, okay, so when COVID hit us, you guys all remember when COVID hit us, it shut everything down. It even shut down our tribal casinos. And when this happened, this really spoke to like, public health. We were at a top priority. We were, it came to public safety, came to public measures, health and all that. And when they started the transition into reopening, and I think that's when we as a group, and then even the coalition that we had, that Team Navajo coalition was still there, still present. They asked about us and they talked about it. And that's when Clinton actually reached out, and we were trying to figure out things to do in our program. And I think everybody was trying to do that in different programs throughout the world, of how do we accommodate, like how can we work even though there's no work to be done. So we were trying to figure out things to do in our program, because we couldn't go out to the communities. Usually we go to the schools, to the chapter houses, working with the youth, but that kind of put to a halt. So everything was on social media. So I reached out to Clinton, A&R, and I seen one of his videos. I'm not sure how it happened, but he was talking about how tribes were reopening, tribal casinos were reopening 100% smoke free. And he developed this video with his kids. And I'll go ahead and let Clinton talk about this, about what happened nationally, and how that kind of partnered up with us, and then kind of gives a little bit of background on what happened nationally with all the tribes.
Well, I guess so the Ariz Life Act of 2021 is a commercial tobacco, it's comprehensive tobacco policy. So it basically kind of sets parameters on where people could smoke cigarettes, and so it's not meant to take away people's rights from smoking cigarettes or from using any type of commercial tobacco. It just states that people can't smoke in public areas within the Navajo Nation, including casinos. And what Hershel was talking about earlier is historically, as this policy was making its way through the legislature, the casino was always able to get exempt from the policy. And this is something that happens in a number of different states, where like the state will go smoke free, and casinos will kind of lobby so that there's an exemption attached to the bill, and that, you know, every this is true in New Jersey, is that, you know, every indoor public area is smoke free except for casinos, commercial casinos, not tribal casinos. So there are still a lot of places where you can currently smoke, and I think one of the last large places where that can happen is at casinos. And so something Hershel was talking about was during the pandemic. During the pandemic, as you guys know, everybody shut down, and tribes were really the first entity to reopen their businesses. And it was just really cool to watch, because as every other, business and entity was closed and didn't know what the hell they were doing, we saw tribes kind of step up and kind of take the lead and model protocols and procedures, COVID-19 protocols and procedures on how to keep everyone safe from COVID-19 at their respective businesses. And so casinos, and this is because casinos need to be open. A lot of tribes depend on casinos financially, and they can't be closed for too long, because it'd be very detrimental to tribes. So they needed to reopen as quick as possible. So they set the standard on what COVID-19 response looks like inside of any type of business entity. So what they did was they created health and safety measures, such as limiting the number of people going into casinos. They marked like every other slot machine off. They required temperature checks. Everything that you see as a safe protocol in any type of like business that has a lot of people, tribes did this first in 2020 before anybody was open. This is what tribes kind of developed, and it's just really cool. And a lot of casinos, with those health and safety protocols and measures, what they did was they reopened smoke free as well. So a lot of them have never been smoke free, and to go along with the measures that were implemented, they reopened without smoking. And so, as you guys know, historically, there's this narrative that casinos and smoking go hand in hand. And what we wanted to do at ANR was, we wanted to help tell a different story, so that people could feel safe at casinos, because that's something that casinos were trying to do with these health and safety measures. They're trying to make a statement publicly that they are, clean, healthy, safe places for people to come to and spend their money, right? And so that was a big part of ANRF's initiatives, was to kind of highlight those health and safety measures in 2020. At the end of 2020 and early 2021, a lot of tribal casinos, they bounced right back after being smoke-free for a couple of months. And I mentioned New Jersey earlier. So this is in New Jersey. There's mostly commercial casinos, and they also opened completely smoke-free in 2020. And they've seen throughout the time that they were smoke-free, all-time record high revenues month after month in 2021. It's just, historically we're trained to think that people go to casinos and they smoke cigarettes and they gamble, and 1 + 1 = 2. That's the equation for casinos. But it's because of the pandemic and because of the leadership of tribal nations throughout the United States, that story is completely being turned upside down. And there's data to back it up. There's numbers to back it up. And a lot of casinos will now come out publicly and say, hey, we went smoke free and we're never going back. And that's exactly what a lot of casinos are doing right now.
Well, the other thing that changed was that everybody got stimulus checks, and if you have kids, you get a bunch of more money. So that might have contributed a little bit to people having a little bit extra spending money.
But that's true. Definitely that's true. But there are record-setting revenues for the month of June 2021, July 2021, August 2021, and we haven't seen a stimulus check in the last several months. So, you know, it's continuing to happen. It's continuing to happen where casinos are breaking records and how much money that they're raking in.
Well, let's get back into the legislation now. What's the status of the legislation right now? The Navajo Nation one.
So what happened with after all this happened and all this this movement really kind of the partnership with ANR with Clinton and his team, and we really just started focusing on Navajo Nation, what we could do here, since our tribe Navajo Nation was looking at reopening back in, I believe, May of 2021 of this year, and then eventually it took them, I think, until June, right? June 1st is the first time they reopened at Fire Rock. But during that whole process, we were really advocating publicly, like really trying to tell our leaders and even telling gaming, like, make sure that they put in their protocols, their safety protocols, that they reopen 100% smoke free. And they did, and then they did. And that was something that we really do appreciate the gaming industry, the gaming leadership, and also our leadership to really look at health as safety, that those are really important. So we really appreciate that. But right now, what we really focus on is we developed the Navajo Nation Ariz Life Health Coalition, and our focus is really trying to educate our leadership and making sure that it's permanent. Right now, it's just temporarily. So back in coalition, the Health Coalition presented the Navajo Nation Ariz Life Act of 2021 to the HES Committee. It was sponsored by Honorable Daniel So of the Navajo Nation HES Committee. He's the chairperson, he's the main sponsor, and I believe Seth Damon is the co-sponsor as well. So that's how it got introduced to the Navajo Nation back in August. It went to the first committee, which is the HES Committee. It passed with no exemption. Then from there, it went on to the Budget and Finance, or not the Budget, but Law and Order Committee. It passed through there with no amendments as well. And it went on to the Resource and Development Committee, which was last week, and they eventually amended it. And what they amended was they wanted to exempt all Navajo gaming, not all Navajo businesses on the Navajo Nation to be exempt from this policy, this legislation. And it included the Navajo Nation gaming as well. So it passed with the vote of, I believe, I think it was 3-1-1-1. And it went on to the Budget and Finance Committee, and that's where it really got interesting. It was really me, just listening in on the committee. It was really interesting from the very beginning. What happened was some of the leaders on the Budget and Finance Committee wanted to, because there's a long list of some of the listeners, you don't know about how legislation and how the process of committees, when they look at legislation, there's some meetings may be long, like they may have a list of all these legislations, and sometimes they'll combine a lot of these legislations and they'll just pass it to the next committee. And that way they don't have any open discussions on it. So what they try to do is they try to get our legislation to be included with these other legislations to pass forward without any discussions. So that was a maneuver. I think that was a tactic that they did. And when I say them, I mean the opposition to this whole legislation is the gaming's opposition of this, obviously because they're smoking in their casinos and they don't want to be permanent. I don't know why. I mean, there's are questions too as well, but so that's what they did when the first committee with the Budget and Finance Committee, they tried to do that, but eventually it just needed one committee member to say no, and that squashed that amendment. So they eventually went through the committee, or eventually went down to the discussion on it. So when it came up to discussion, I believe one of the delegates, the first thing that he mentioned is he wanted to, he mentioned that he supports the original intent of this legislation. He didn't support when the RDC amended it, meaning the gaming and the business was exempt from the legislation. So he had questions on, how can I vote on this when I don't agree with the amendment, but I support the original intent of this legislation. That was his saying. And then after that, Honorable Amber Cotty came in, and she had a lot of questions, and really good questions too, and clarifications on the committee rules in regards to amending legislation. So she kind of questioned the RDC's process and how they amended that. And then also questioning the legislation process of how their committee could amend the RDC's amendment to take off their amendment and go back to the original legislation.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a discussion. And they did a 5-minute period. It was really interesting. They stopped for 5 minutes because the Legislative Council had to do a little homework really quick to get some legal interpretation of how that goes. And because Amber had those questions, like, she wanted to know if there was information that the RDC could share of why they amended it. And she asked for those questions too, like, where's the evidence? Where's the information of why the delegates amended it as well? So when it came down to it, eventually they came back and the legislative, they basically told them that, and if you understand law, there needs to be a law in order for, like, there needs to be a previous law passed or done in order for get some legal advice and guidance on how to follow a law process. So there's nothing to cite, nothing to reference in regards to this process. So it's still an open, you could do it, and then you'll set precedents on how these committees could do things in that process. So eventually they went ahead and amended it to take off RDC's amendment. So and it passed with the vote of 3, 2, and 1. So now it's going on to the Nabi committee, which is going to be the overall Navajo Nation committee, 24 Navajo Nation Council. So that's the process of how it's going. And I think there's probably maybe 4 to 6 key individuals that are in opposition and how they look at this legislation and how it's going to impact gaming. And a lot of it's just about the revenue, how it's going to impact the revenue. And I think that's what they're stuck on. And I don't think gaming has any legitimate stance right now. I think it's really interesting what's going to happen in the next couple of days.
I have a question, Adrian. If you were a council delegate, how would you vote for this?
What Hersh had mentioned earlier about the last, the last time this had been brought up, and I think you said back in 2011 when they were had the last legislation, and Joe Shirley, Dr. Joe Shirley, my Che, said, we don't know how it's going to affect the gaming, because in all the other gaming facilities, Las Vegas, everywhere else, they smoke. So, they kind of seem, to me at that time, would seem like the right choice. Don't do it because we don't know what's going to happen. And to me, I feel like we're still kind of at that point, because gaming on Navajo Nation is still new, and we're still trying to figure it out. We're not making all this money where
So you're saying
there's still
that
problems with it.
You're saying that gaming hasn't delivered its promises in regards to revenue shares
Yeah.
in the Navajo Nation.
Yeah.
And why is that?
I think we kind of talked about it. I think with Twin Arrows, they made a big investment into Twin Arrows, and that hasn't paid off. And then
my question, I'm sorry I'm going off topic, but so how has tobacco control contributed to the revenue loss?
Yeah, see, that's the thing is that we don't know, and just to change it, switch it up and change everything, we don't know what the impact is going to be. So to me, that would be kind of I would probably vote no against it, just because I would have to see something very definitive, oh yeah, this is gonna either not impact it at all, or it's gonna be beneficial. You have to definitively say, because
So your vote would be yes. And what if we were to educate you and give you information? Like a good example would be, how many of your constituents and visitors, patrons come to the casino? How many of are smokers? What if we
Uh,
told you that?
I-
What if we
that's a
told you
good
that
question.
20? What if we told you that 20% of your patrons that come to the casino are smokers? So you're catering to 20% when 80% of your constituents are your
Some-
visitors are non-smokers.
a lot of casinos are seeing monthly upticks because they're smoke free, because
Yeah.
and they could say this because the comments are coming in online from, you know, Yelp reviews, Google reviews, and even the written comments. They're saying, man, we love this place being smoke free, we're staying here longer, and, you know, please keep this place smoke free. And they're seeing these comments kind of with higher and higher revenue earnings. And so I think when it comes down to it, you know, those types of questions is something that only, you know, NGE members would know and council delegates should know. Like they
Yeah.
should know this.
Yeah, I'd like to see like a survey. Like, even though you're saying yeah, most people don't smoke, but do they mind? Like, do you, like, if you did a survey of people,
Yeah.
like, do you mind if people smoke in?
So
in
yeah,
here?
so one of
the
the
deterrent?
things, yeah, one of the things that our program did, and back in 2017, 18, and 19, right before the pandemic, is we went out into the communities and we did pollies. We did pollies at all the Navajo Nation fairs, at the community chapters, all these different events that Navajo Nation had. So we collected over 2,000 surveys on how people look at a smoke-free policy and how they look at e-cigarettes, since that was a epidemic before the pandemic happened. And overwhelmingly, every person supported the Navajo Nation to go smoke-free in regards to any kind of, I think it was 75% of 2,000 surveys, 75% are supportive of a policy that covers all of Navajo Nation and includes the tribal casinos.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, that was the main discussion. A lot of them were like, "Oh yeah, that's smoking. It's horrible. Like it's overwhelming."
Yeah, but I feel like, I feel like that's like that's not surprising, because most people, they don't like to smoke, and I think most people probably don't like to gamble too. If you ask all those people, well, you don't want to smoke, do you gamble? Probably most of them will say no too. And like when it comes to casinos, like we shouldn't even be having Navajo shouldn't even be in the casinos. We don't even want Navajos to be in the casino spending their money that should be going, you know, into their families or whatever. But we should be attracting the non-Navajos. We want to attract the Asians, the white people, the Mexican people, and those are the people that we need to be surveying. Do you want smoking in here or do you not? Those are the customers. Those are our target audience.
So my argument to that is, like, I know delegates in Navajo Gaming always say that they're catering to the non-natives. That's what they always say. They say this is a market for non-natives. But when you go in these casinos, and you know, Adrian, 80% of them are Navajo. So they need to stop saying that and start saying that we need to protect our people. We need to protect our visitors, because majority of them are Navajo. So they need to stop I mean, I understand they're marketing off Navajo Nation, which is good, but I'm saying a lot of our people, and even our Hopi people, our relatives, are going to these facilities, you know, and to me, it's like, it's contradicting to what gaming's marketing strategy is when their clients and their visitors are
we're not gonna stop them at the door and say, hey, you're Navajo.
I know that, but I'm just saying their message is misleading, you know. And then to answer that question too, Adrian, I think it's really interesting, and we've always advocated to gaming in their leadership, the tribal council, is to do surveys with their VIP members. Like, you know, there's a cougar, there's a bear, and then you have eagle. Do surveys with them, and I know they do surveys with them, but include commercial tobacco questionnaires in understanding how they look at this. Do they prefer smoking or non-smoking? And if they do, if the Navajo Nation was to go smoke-free, are they okay with going outside, if they are smokers, to go outside and smoke in an outside patio or something like that? I mean, we're not against smokers, we're not against gaming, but it's just strategies and approaches that we could do to better our environment in regards to, you know, secondhand smoke and commercial tobacco use. Like, we're not against smokers. If you're gonna smoke,
We're
it's
not
okay.
against rap. We're not against rappers, but we are against those
smoke. Yeah.
You guys are against the big tobacco industry? Is that who you're against? Okay.
Well, I mean, I look at it, and it goes back to what I mentioned about smoke-free policies, and it goes back to the fact that we're an open market, man. Like, we're an open market for the tobacco industry to prey on us and to, you know, pinch out every penny that they could have. And to speak on that, the tobacco industry is a declining industry. It's losing. I mean, it's declining. I mean, there's not that many smokers anymore. When you look at it from a national point of view, that 90% of millennials are non-smokers. And that's a CDC findings, that 90% of millennials are non-smokers. So where is the tobacco industry? Where are they going to go? They're going to go places where, like third world countries, and where they don't have policies to protect their people. And in Indian country, we're an open market. That's what I mean. So that's what I mean in regards to the tobacco industry. They're very smart. They're very, you know, they have a lot of money, and they could buy out, you know, people easily. And I think that's really interesting to ask, you know, our Navajo Nation Gaming, our attorneys, even our leadership, asking them how many of them have any ties to tobacco industry. Are they financially being, you know, paid? And they need to disclose that if they're going to have conversations surrounding this topic, because it's a conflict of interest, the way I see it. So asking that question,
campaign contribution.
It's not campaign. I mean, lobbying is another issue too. And I think I have an issue with lobbying. So my understanding is, like, if gaming is going to be doing some lobbying behind the doors, then that's on Navajo Nation paid tax revenue. Oh, so our Navajo people are paying gaming and their attorneys to advocate against our own people in regards to this issue. And I think that's some ethics right there. So there's questions on their attorneys, and there's questions on their leadership. There's questions on gaming, on how they're misleading and manipulating our leadership by using scare tactics, by revenue scare tactics, what I mean. And that's what I mean by the tobacco industry. They use that same tactic. Oh, 15 to 20%, they're going to lose revenue if you go smoke free. That's a long standing misleading notion that gaming that tobacco industries have done in any industry, any environment that they try to advocate for non-smokers, or for no policy be implemented. So
yeah. Sounds like a conspiracy theory to me.
No, I think it's really interesting, like, because, like, the only reason why I linked that in Clinton is, right, there's no real evidence, but unless you do like you get somebody's a whistleblower or something happens, because, you know, those financial, you know, they're not disclosed. But I think the reason why I say that is because you look at you just got to do your own homework too, but you got to think about the tactics that the tobacco industry did when the whole United States was going smoke free, like public places and workplaces, within the bars, restaurants, and airplanes. You know, all these business industries were told that if they go smoke free, that they're going to lose revenue, and that was false.
They hid from the public for years that secondhand smoke was dangerous. You know, for like years and years, they hid this information until it actually came out in the Surgeon General's report that secondhand smoke is actually, harmful to people's health.
Yeah. And one thing I would say is, just listening on the reports, listening on gaming's, rebuttals or opposition, their point of views. One thing I will say, and I hope people understand this in our leadership, is the ventilation systems that they keep referencing. They say that, oh, we have the state-of-the-art ventilation systems in these gamings that take away all the bacteria, the odor, and the smell. Yeah. And there's new technology that are coming out that kills bacteria and COVID-19. But the message that they're not telling the leadership and the people is those ventilation systems do not eliminate cancer-causing particles within that secondhand smoke. There's no ventilation system in the world, and it's backed by science, it's backed by the facts that there's no ventilation system that eliminates cancer-causing particles. So it still lingers, no matter if you don't see it, if you don't smell it, it still lingers in the air. And that's the message that they're not telling the leadership. They're just telling them we have the best ventilation systems in the world. That's it.
Yeah. So one of the things that we say, or we've had this conversation off the pod, like in the DMs and stuff, but I say, well, people should, be free to make the choice if they want to smoke or not. Like, it's like, we got to stop trying to limit people's freedoms. And then what you say is like, well, what about the people that work there? They don't have a choice. They have to deal with it, right?
Smoke-free policies, they are not designed to stop people from smoking cigarettes. There's nothing in any policies that say that they will prevent somebody from, smoking a cigarette on their own. All it does is it prevents people from smoking cigarettes in indoor places. And I don't know. I definitely think that casino workers and other guests who don't smoke definitely have an equal right to not be exposed to secondhand smoke as much as a smoker has a right to light up a cigarette wherever they want, right? So that's their right. They have a right. Smokers have a right. They say they have a right to do that. But I also, strongly advocate that, non-smokers and casino workers who aren't smoking, they also have an equal right to not be exposed to deadly, or have their health be put at risk from secondhand smoke. And
yeah.
But there was one time this girl who I know, I went to school with her, she was pregnant with like her second kid. And she was exposed, her baby's being exposed to, these chemicals every day because this woman needs to show up to work so that she can provide food and whatever else for her other kids. So it's like, what about the rights of this baby, this unborn baby that's kind of growing in this woman's stomach? Does that baby doesn't have a choice in whether or not it's what it's being exposed to. And so that's common in a lot of tribal casinos where our tribal women members that are women are working on these casino floors, pregnant, and so it's just
No, I think those are good points that you mentioned, Clinton. And just to back off of that, I think it's really important to look at the collective rights. And the collective rights these are places like public places and workplaces where we're talking about. And this is a very preventable health impact that we could do by passing these policies that protect people in our workplaces and in public places. There's nothing wrong with that. And you look at the individual rights of those people in those places, how many of them are non-smokers and how many are smokers? Like I mentioned, 80% of them are non-smokers. So there's a lot more rights compared to 20% of the smokers. So you got to consider that when you're making decisions and understanding, what's the better option, and also protecting the workers. I think that's really important. Because we look at Navajo Nation gaming and any gaming industry, their turnover rates of like casino workers and smoking environments, there's a high turnover rate, and I think Navajo Nation gaming does have the highest employment turnover rate on the Navajo Nation, and you got to ask that question: why is that? And then the health premiums of our insurance for these employees is the highest too than any other programs on the Navajo Nation. So employment insurance is really high when we talk about health insurance for these employees. And why is that? Why do they have the highest insurance policy or insurance premiums when it comes to the Navajo Nation employees? So those are just questions that you got to kind of question as leadership and making these decisions, like what's the better option. And eventually, if you could benefit from this too as well, like having better insurance company or having lower premiums in health insurance. But I know from a leadership perspective, and when they talk about individual rights, that they have a right to go into these casinos if they're going to be going in there to entertainment or playing. These workers have that individual right to either choose a job to work in that environment. But the thing that I have a problem with is that, yes, our people have a right to choose where they're going to work, but you're making them choose their decision to either make a living for their family versus having health issues at the expense of their health. Is that right ethically? But as a leader, you have that right and you have that decision to make that decision for your people instead of putting that pressure on them. So you as a leader, Navajo Nation had your leadership, you have that responsibility to protect and provide and guide and look out for your Navajo Nation employees. So don't put that on the Navajo Nation employees to make that decision. You have that decision to make that decision overall for them by passing and protecting them with these policies. So that's what I mean, but I don't agree with concepts of individual rights and when it comes to public places and workplaces. That's just my spill on that. Because I hear a lot of our leaders saying that now. It's an individual right, and I don't agree with that. It's like you have that ability as a leader to make that decision for them instead of putting a burden on them to make that. And then Adrian, what's individual rights?
Well, just like how we're saying, like an individual should have the right. Well, for me, it's like I always talk about like the vaccine stuff. It's like I should have the right not to take the vaccine if I don't want to. But Hersh is saying, well, the collective is more than the individual. Like, we got to protect the collective, and it's not. We can't just have one person mess it up for everybody else, I guess. But is the narrative.
Yeah. I think when it comes to this issue, this topic, it's a little different because we're talking about secondhand smoke. We're talking about exposing other people to your individual right to do what you're going to do. It has a trickle effect on what you're doing on your people in your area, the environment. So that's a little different. Like if you're drinking, if you act up, yeah, they're going to control you. They're going to probably tell you to leave and whatnot. But if you drink, you're not really bothering anybody. And if you're getting a vaccine, you're not really going to bother anybody either. Like it's up to you if you can do that. So that's, I mean, this is a little different when it comes to like secondhand smoke. It's a little, I guess the individual right as a smoker doesn't play a right when it comes to the collective rights of everybody in that environment that's being exposed to that secondhand smoke.
I see. Clinton, does your tribe have casinos? I assume. Do they have smoking?
Yeah, we got one casino. There's a very famous study called Gambling with Our Health that was published in 2015 that a lot of casinos and public health entities use. And it's actually, the study took place at our casino, Lake of the Torches Resort Casino in Lac du Flambeau. And what they did was they surveyed their tier members. So this is what we were talking about earlier. Like, man, like maybe these casinos should just survey their tier members and figure out what they want and what their preferences are. And our casino did this in 2014, and they found that the highest tier player club members, so like the diamond and gold members, they preferred a smoke-free casino. And not only did they want a smoke-free casino, but they said that they would spend more money and stay at the casino longer if there were smoke-free policies. And what we did was we gathered this data and we presented it in front of council, and they said no, and they installed a multi-million-dollar air ventilation system. It's like, where did this come from?
So the question to you, Clinton, is that
where's that money come from for that ventilation system?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But who came in? Who swooped in?
Who saved the day?
Hold on.
The tobacco industry.
Who saved the day?
Oh.
But no, those are good questions. Like the ventilation system, it's like that's what our leadership, and that's the same thing that I'm hearing on the floor with some of our delegates. They're saying, "Oh, we have the state-of-the-art ventilation system. Like it works from the ground up, and it goes." It's like, man, they need to educate themselves, and that comes back to like, I'm not against our leaders. I'm not against their decision. I think it's the information that they're provided that's misleading or if it's accurate. And if our leaders get the right information, the accurate information on some of these topics or this topic, and I think they'll make the right decision. And that's the thing that I have. And I've heard on council too, and they're actually, some of them are actually questioning the science, questioning evidence-based science, saying that secondhand smoke, they're asking, oh, is it really impactful? Does it really hurt our health? Is it really?
Right.
That's the worry part that I see that's coming from far right, I guess, Adrian. I don't know where it's coming from. Like, how are you gonna
Thanks
question
a lot, Trump.
science? How are you gonna question science when this is evidence? It's, everybody knows, it's common sense, and that's very simple policy the way I look at it. And it's just like it's just
I don't know, man. Could be conspiracy. I'm gonna have to look into this. I'm gonna have to check YouTube for this.
Real quick, I don't want to bash my tribe. They are smoke free now. The casino is smoke free.
Oh, really? Nice.
They're handling business very, very
that's good.
strong, and they are smoke free. So shout out to Lactic Flambeau.
Yeah.
Lakers and Torches.
Yeah, shout out to them, man. One other thing I'll share, Jeanette news, what I did last week and what I did over the weekend. I hope it gets out there. So what I did as a researcher, I wanted to understand from the workers' point of view, like people who are working in these facilities. So I went and visited Fire Rock over the weekend, and one of the things I did is
I was doing research.
I went up to every, I played too, but I went up to every worker that I ran into and asked them a very simple question, like, what do you think about this air? Like, it smells good, right? Or do you want to go back to the OA? And every one of them, I would say about 25 of them that I talked to said they love it. They like it. And matter of fact, they actually referenced our legislation that was at Fire Rock. So the other day I went to Twin Arrows, did the exact same thing again. Every one of them said they love it. They like it. It's clean. They could work better, and they just like it because they don't leave home. They don't go to home with all the smelly chemicals or all their hair. They don't have to take a shower right when they get home. So they see a lot of benefits in that. And then they say they're cleaning products too. Like when they go around cleaning, it's a lot easier, and they don't have to sponge the floors. They were saying, one person said that. So it's a lot easier on the workers, and they're a lot more confident. They're a lot more happier, based on my observation. So that's something that I would stress to anybody who's listening right now. If you have family members who are in the casinos that working there, like, tell them like what we're doing, and tell them to support this legislation, that it's there to help our people in our communities. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. So Hershel, did you count your time in the casinos as work hours on your time sheet?
Yeah, he probably got paid.
Gotta talk to my boss about that.
I'm just playing.
Yeah, I remember when one of my first jobs, I used to wash cars and detail cars, and like the people that baked on the windshield and on the driver's side.
Right? Yeah. Dude, you should have looked like when I was before this pandemic happened. I used to go to casinos and I look at the ceilings. Like the ceilings, it's black. Everything is black, especially like Fire Rock. And it's really nasty, man. And if you go to the ventilation systems, man, dude, it's disgusting, man.
So Ho Chunk Gaming Madison, who went smoke free in 2015, they're the only smoke-free tribal casino in the Midwest for many years, and now over 85% of tribal casinos in Wisconsin are all smoke-free. But anyways, we filmed in there in 2016 or 2017, and we were going through the ventilation systems, and it was crazy, man. Like the maintenance guy was taking me through all the filters, the air filters, and he was opening them, and he was showing me, no, this is a non-smoking casino.
Oh, okay.
He was telling me, he's like, man, he's like, I don't even have to change these anymore. He's like, that's the number one thing I noticed. He's like, I don't even have to change these. I change them maybe once a year, and that's it. Yeah. And he was telling me, he's like, before the policy, they would change those filters 2-3 times a month. And he said when you would open them, they'd be drenched with that resin of them, like tar and stuff. And he says like we save so much money on air filters alone, and, man hours from changing all the air filters, and we don't even have to change them anymore. It's pretty cool, man. So yeah, air ventilation systems.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Pretty interesting, guys. Pretty good conversation.
A lot of benefits on that, yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys kind of shifted my opinion a little bit on that. Because yeah, it is gross. Like cigarettes are nasty. A lot of bad health side effects, and I don't know how it got so popular, but it's like weird, you know, like way in the, I don't know, back in the 20s and 30s. I don't know when it got so popular, but like it was just the thing. Like I was saying before all this stuff happened, it was like the thing to do, you know, and it was like you see everybody do it. I remember like my mom used to smoke cigarettes sometimes, and just like everybody did it, and now it's like nobody does anymore. It's not even cool anymore.
Yeah. And one thing I'll leave on a positive note is like I support gaming. I support what they're doing. In regards to like helping our people, employment and all that. But I just think there's a need for a transition to a safer and healthier environment, especially after what we went through with COVID. And my mom works at a casino, and she's diabetic. She takes some pills and whatnot for her health. And she had COVID too as well. So we don't know the long-term effects of people who've been impacted by COVID and how the secondhand smoke is going to impact them. So that's another concern that I see for a lot of these workers. And we don't know how many of these workers actually had COVID. So we don't know that information, that data. So I think it's a good interest for our leadership to look at this and Navajo Nation Gaming to transition into that and make it a precedence. I think what we do in Indian country does set a precedence for Indian country. No disrespect to Clinton and the other tribes, but when Navajo Nation does something, it's a trickle effect in Indian country. And we could be the champions in this area if we were to make it permanently smoke free. And then all the other tribes would eventually kind of, you know, follow our lead. And shout out to some of the casinos that are out there making it permanent right now. So that's what I would say. I support gaming, and I just want, and I'm not against smokers. I am against I'm against smokers indoors and just making that transition outdoors. That's all it is. So
can I just want to say for closing, thank you guys so much for having me on. I'm a big fan of Y.A.F. I've been listening to you guys since you guys started. Man, I love your guys' perspective, Adrian and Delmar. And I already know Hershel, but I was very excited to meet Adrian and Delmar. Delmar's not on, but
yeah, he was born. I mean, we just had our 100th episode last week, and we kind of invited some of the guests, and some of the questions that we asked them is like, what do you want us to kind of concentrate on moving forward, or what's your recommendations? What do you see, or just your feedback? Like, give us some of that, man.
Yeah, so I don't remember like specifically all the things you guys talked about in your earlier episodes, but I made a comment once, and I think you guys liked it. I know Adrian and Delmar liked it. One of you guys retweeted it, but I made a comment saying like, I hate how all these other like native podcasts, they try to like be indigenous this and indigenize that, and you know, like super woke terms and trying to sound real educated. It's just like, it's just, man, it pisses me off.
Yeah.
And what I like about you guys is like, you guys talk about real stuff, and you guys all have different perspectives, and you can argue about things, but still be, you know, friends, and, you know, talk about things in that way. And I don't know, man, I just like, the one thing I really like is like the different perspectives that everybody has coming from, you know, way different backgrounds. And, you know, I really like the reservation dog stuff that you guys were talking about earlier, and highlighting a couple of the episodes. I think it's time for the indigenous critic to kind of become woke and start, you know, really talking about these different things going on in Indian country now. And it's just really cool to like hear you guys talk about reservation dogs. And I don't know, man, it's just I'm just really inspired and honored to be on this podcast with you guys.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Appreciate that, man.
I was trying to do some research behind like what are the, you know, what would be the opposing arguments to what you guys are saying. And so I was trying to research that stuff, and you know, it's hard to find, you know, because a lot of people are for smoke-free casinos, and so there's like I said, there is a movement behind there. And what is their argument that they have that they're saying to you, or to the leaders, or to the people? Like, what is their main?
I think their main
arguments?
focus was the fact that they're going to lose revenue. And what I mean by that, there's like different streams of revenue it's going to impact, like their expansion of Twin Arrows. Is they're talking about the ranch out there in Flagstaff. They're talking about expanding, there's like phases of what Twin Arrows Casino is doing. I think we're in phase 2, but ultimately it's the 5th phase, which includes development for extension for the hotel there at the gaming, and also a water park at the Navajo Nation Twin Arrows, and also a golf course there at Twin Arrows, and also an amphitheater. I think there's a theater or indoor theater, and then also expansion over in Fire Rock over in Gallup. So there's development stages of how they can move forward with those developments, and they're using non-smoking is going to impact a lot of those development plans that they have. And so my question always is like, okay, well, prove it. Give us some facts. Give us some numbers. And I think the leadership should question that. It's like, we need evidence to show that you're just saying this just to say it, but we need actual facts and data to back them up on what they're saying it's going to impact.
So one thing that a lot of casinos do to kind of have the argument on the other side is they use extremely outdated data and numbers around non-smoking casinos. And what they do is they take numbers either from their own casinos or from other casinos around non-smoking sections. So if you think about non-smoking sections at any tribal casino, any casino, you walk into the casino and it's in the back of the casino in a small space. It's usually in the worst location that the casino could be located in. It has 10% of the gaming floor. It doesn't have any of the machines that are attractive to any of the patrons. People go in and they see the real cool Game of Thrones machines, right? Those aren't in the non-smoking sections. They're not. They have things way in the back, encased in a little glass box.
Yeah.
And so what casinos do is they compare numbers from non-smoking sections to smoking sections, and they say, hey, look, our non-smoking sections don't make money. And it's like, of course they're not making money. Come on now,
There's no tables. There's no table games in there either.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there's tactics on how they get those numbers and how they're able to share that. And even that I think my boss, when she was reporting, she questioned gaming's ventilation system, their testing of how they measure. So when you do air quality measurements, when you test the air quality, there's the equipment that you use that they have that could only capture certain amounts of particles. And what they're using is they're using these measurements that don't capture cancer-causing particles. They only capture big particles or bacteria and stuff like that. And that's what they're reporting back to the gaming. And I looked at some of the reports too that the gaming does in regards to air quality when they give it to the leadership. It's very misleading, and it's always comes back to like, it's a private industry that does these ventilation, these air quality testings. Why isn't our Navajo Nation OSHA doing these ones? Why isn't the EPA, the Navajo Nation EPA, doing this? So that's the question that I have. And we've been talking with the Navajo Nation OSHA, and they're expanding their regulatory of how much they could do on a Navajo Nation because it's workplaces, and they do have an oversight. They do have a regulation on air quality there.
Yeah. So it's like they're checking themselves, huh? They're like, so that doesn't really work. So
it's really interesting what they do. So they can manipulate those information. And that's why I always go back to like information. Like if it's good information, accurate information, and it's not misleading. And I think that's what, and I hate to say it, and that's what gaming's doing. And I don't know why. We want to give the best information to our leadership to make the best decision for our people.
Yeah. And it seems like what they're saying, like what you're saying about the phases, if they're going to build a water park and they're going to build, golf course or all these other phases, then you kind of want to make it more of a family environment and to invite more people and have more people participate. And if I have kids, then I probably wouldn't want to have them around, the casino. Yeah, they can go to other areas, would you guys be would you guys be for or support, like say like you said, Clinton, the non-smoking sections are way in the back and in the corner, and nobody likes to go there. If they made that the smoking section, would you guys be okay with that, like having a small smoking section?
No, I'm for smoking sections, but outside, detached from the building. And it's possible. There's casinos that do it for very cheap. They get, in cities they have those school buses. They have like those little areas where people go in and wait for the buses. So a lot of casinos just use those. They put them right outside. They cut a hole in them and they put an air conditioner and a heater in there for the winter. Well, you guys don't. Well, I guess you guys do have to worry about the winter over there, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But anyways, they make climate controlled areas that are really cheap, and I'm for smoking sections that are outside. And people don't go to casinos to smoke cigarettes. They go there to spend money. So, tribal leaders, they're, whether they go that route or not, they're gonna want people to, put money in the slot machines and on the tables, and not outside smoking cigarettes or anywhere else. They want them to spend money, and that's what people are going to casinos for anyways.
Yeah. And I think smoking doesn't have a limitation. As long as there's air, the smoke will go in that direction. So separation of buildings or outdoors is basically the answer. So indoor smoking, even if it's a small little area, it's still going to linger and it's still going to impact people.
Yeah. All right, man. Well,
but hey, before we leave, any shout outs though?
Oh man. Yeah. Shout out to the Bears. Shout out to the Oneida Nation.
Yeah.
Shout out to Hershel for inviting me on the podcast. And yeah, man. Shout out to my wife, my wife Emily, and my daughter, and shout out to ANR. Sorry.
He's all sorry.
The people that pay me.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to American Non-Smokers' Rights. You guys check out their website. It has some good information if you guys want to know more about this topic. Shout out to the casinos. Shout out to Ute Casino up in Utah, the Ute Nation there. They're actually going to go smoke-free permanently.
Nice.
They're really marketing it in that area. Shout out to Cliff Castle. They're going to go smoke-free 100% too as well. Shout out to Honda Casino. They're smoke-free. Shout out to all the urban casinos down in Salt River, the Desert Diamond, the Talking Stick. They're all smoke-free. Hopefully they all go permanently. Right now it's just temporarily, but shout out to all the casinos who are smoke-free. That's my shout outs.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, shout out to you guys, man, and the work that you guys are doing. And coming on here and educating me and educating the listeners. I think good information that came out. So
yeah.
Appreciate
shout
it.
Shout out to Navajo Nation Gaming too.
Forgot. Yeah, shout out to gaming, man. I love
you guys.
Gaming, right?
All right, Clinton, but appreciate it, man. Yeah. Shout out to Delmar. I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah. Shout out to the Phoenix Mercury ladies. All right, guys. I'm gonna cut it out. We'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Wait, one more other thing. So the legislations go to the Naabik'iyátí committee, and then from there it's going to either go to the special session or to October fall session. So be aware of it. It's called the Navajo Nation Niłch Bee Ííńá Air Act of 2021. So look out for it. If you guys want more information, contact me or whoever. But yeah, that's a one.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nez Henderson and Hershel Clark. That was wonderful. We really appreciated hearing all of this. What would be your final message now to the audience and to the leaders and to the community?
Oh, Arnold Soshik A. Danotliniki O Hehan Kididrishnik Dik A. Qui Hourshing, Dysonolts O Polji, Shakoho. The Bandate Inigi, the Quishinaka, Kut Al. Bandate because ani kwatol la di no queer she is ling oko shnant atanotlini ashwande nanhin hunchka din kalchina nkik ein kemasan in kitche await dit elto chiliki ba date oko ashwade nankinchka ti behes ani diego betzilo ta dit nito di naso away nchaalchina tamlinigi njino payata hoto alko binya date o can kitishning a.
Thank you, Shar. I'd like to just thank, first of all the speakers who spoke this evening on, the forum, really from Missy Tracy from the Ho-Chunk tribe, and also Mr. Al Yazi for the opening prayer. And also thank the worker who shared her story in regards to working in the casino. And I think their perspective and their views on this issue is really important, especially when they work 30 to 40 hours a week in the industry where smoking is allowed. I think their opinion and their views is really important. So I really would encourage our gaming and also our Navajo Nation leadership to really focus on their perceptions on how they look at this as well. And also from the people, from the community. As you know, this legislation was presented on behalf of the Ariz Life Health Coalition, which is really a grassroots organization really focusing on the concerns that we see in tobacco control for the Navajo Nation. So it's really appreciating the coalition, appreciating the former coalition, the Team Navajo coalition as well. And I think that's just really coming from the people. So I really would encourage our leadership to really listen to the concerns and the views from their own community, from their own chapters, the local leadership as well. And I just want to just thank everybody who's been, part of this whole movement. It's been a long time effort. I think over 12 years that this organization or this, this legislation, this effort has been presented to the Navajo Nation. And I think that just continuing to educate people, continue to educate with the right information, the accurate information. And I think that's key. In moving forward, I just want to also appreciate, the efforts that we did in the communities, really working with our traditional healers and their perception. They're really coming from a culture point of view is really powerful as well. As you know, a lot of our traditional healers do support this legislation now, and they do support the fact that they understand that secondhand smoke is dangerous. They understand that commercial tobacco is harmful to our health. So I think their views on this is also very important. Oh, and also the special thanks to the Your Aunties Favorite Podcast for bringing that discussion to the local community and to the, I like to say, Hogan level community. And I think that's really what that podcast is really focusing, getting perceptions from the people, from the community. So thank you. And I'd like to just appreciate the Azeb Banaga of the Navajo Nation and the Naabik'iyátí Association for their continuous support and partnership with our program here at the CENTAP and with our, with our health coalition as well. So with that said, I just want to appreciate everybody and thank, our leadership for all the efforts that we are going through, especially with COVID-19. I think this is just really a public health safety protocols are making sure our nation's a lot healthier moving forward from COVID. I think we experienced something we hope and pray that we'll never experience again, but I think it's just something to improve ourselves in our nation health-wise. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your words, Hershel. We've been having this discussion for quite some time now, as a physician and as a public health scientist. We've been working with our communities really addressing this issue. I think my final words is that the science is clear. The science is clear on the dangers of secondhand smoke. There is no safe levels. There is not one ventilation system in the world, no HVAC system in the world that can clear out the cancer-causing chemicals found in secondhand smoke exposure. The only way we can prevent our Navajo people from being exposed from these chemicals is to create a policy that eliminates secondhand smoke exposure in all workplaces and public places. And that is it. From all the way from the United States Surgeon General down to our local Navajo EPA, universities, every person, World Health Organization, name it, all these health organizations say the same thing. And I just want to really stress that as we move forward, we come away with a policy that is comprehensive. There's no exemption, because every life matters. every worker on Navajo Nation matters. Their lives matters. Their families' lives matters. So I'm just really urging our leaders tonight to think this through as they're making their decision. And just want to say a special thank you to our council delegates who have been so supportive on this effort as we've been going through the subcommittees over the past several weeks, actually several months. I just really appreciate your efforts, especially the sponsoring agent, the Honorable Council Delegate Daniel So. And we really appreciate all your efforts in this. And as winter comes about this season, please take care of yourselves and just really be mindful as you go about your day. And and just all of you know that we the reason why we do this is we love you. That's probably the primary message, that we all love you. And with this, we'll close this session. Thank you.